Good evening. Welcome to the Sharmark Show. I am your host, Sharmark. And today we're going to talk about Lent. We're going to talk about Easter. And I have the best person here to help us understand how Easter and Lent and all of this works. We have Father Albert here. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you, and thank you for inviting me to share on this pertinent subject as we go through it right
You are
now.
most welcome. Before we start off, for me, I would like to know who is Father Albert?
Okay, so I'm a Catholic priest, as most persons would know. I am from the community of Grand Riviere, Dennery, hailed from Dennery, worked quite a few years in my life. So I attended the Dennery Boys, the Dennery Junior Sec. I attended, interestingly, the SD Academy for higher education, and I worked. I worked with the SLBGA, St. Lucia Banana Growers Association. I worked with the National Research and Development Foundation, and I also worked Ministry of Tourism on an tourism project when we were, bringing some life to Dennery and those kind of things. I studied for priesthood. I started in Grenada. I moved to Jamaica where I did philosophical studies, and then I moved back to Trinidad where I continued my theology. And thereafter, I took a break. I took a 1 year break. I thought it was 1 year. It added to 10 years.
Wow.
And then in 2012, I was sent to Rome to complete priestly studies, theology studies, where I did a bachelor's of theology and also a postgraduate diploma in theology. Came back to St. Lucia in 2016 and was ordained on the 8th of September. And since then, I worked in um, Rosa Jackmel for 4 months, where I was parish administrator. 2017 January, I went to Soufrière, where I was assistant parish priest for 5 years, 11 months. And I moved to the Good Shepherd Parish, Barbono, 2023, I think. And I've been there since then as parish priest.
Wow, you've done quite a bit. But how did you get into how did it was the purported priesthood? How
Mhm.
did you get into it?
Well, it's a desire that had always been with me from a young age, and you want to do something, just like some people say, "Oh, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a nurse." From a very young age, I always wanted to become a priest. I knew nothing really about priesthood. I was just very much interested in church. Like most persons who said, "Oh, they were an acolyte," they serve around
That
the
was actually
altar.
my were you in the
Yes,
choir
I was in
or
the
in,
choir. I taught confirmation. I was part of the liturgical dance troupe in the parish. And all of us kind
you've
of.
done
But I,
everything?
yes, but I was never an acolyte. I was never
Okay.
an altar server.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Wow. So with all of this being said, share some more light with us about Lent, Easter. How does it work? Which one comes first? What is the meaning of Lent? Ash Wednesday. I want to
Right.
know where the ashes come from. All of this. I'm a bit
Right.
confused, and I
Yes.
need that knowledge
Yes.
today.
Okay. So the whole aspect of Lent, begins with Ash Wednesday, and Ash Wednesday, you know, comes immediately after Carnival. So before we had Carnival in July, like Trinidad and like Dominica, we had Carnival in February, and then Ash Wednesday comes immediately after Monday, Tuesday Carnival, and the church is saying that okay, you've had all your fete, you've had all your bacchanal, you have all your things. And now it's time for preparation for Easter. Now, before the church celebrates anything that is important, there is always preparation. Just like somebody's getting married for years, they have their preparation, they have this, they have that. The church is no different. So, to celebrate Easter, the church gives us 6 weeks of preparation, just as to celebrate Christmas, the church gives us 4 weeks to celebrate Christmas. So the preparation for Easter really begins with Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday, we have our Ash Wednesday Mass and we distribute ashes. These ashes really come from the burnt palms that were used on Palm Sunday the year before
Oh,
that.
interesting. Okay.
Yes. So the palms, we hold back some palms, we store it, and then we burn those palms where we get those ashes from. These were the palms where, in the time of Jesus, when he went into Jerusalem, people waved and said, Hosanna to the King of David. And
So, what is the meaning of the ash on your forehead?
the ash is basically to remind you that we are nothing. We are nothing. So one of the formulas that we use when we impose the ash is that remember you are dust, and unto dust you shall
And
return.
I realize you do that. Is that the
The
way
the,
they
the, for, the
connect?
format, yes,
Ah,
we form
okay.
it in the form of a cross,
As-
and the
For
priest or
years
the
I've been
person,
seeing that, and I want to
yes,
ask that question.
remember you are dust, and unto dust you shall return. Another formula we use is that turn away from sins and believe the good news. Lent really begins with Ash Wednesday and moves into Easter. For Lent, 6 weeks. 6 weeks of concentrating on prayer, fasting, and almsgiving.
Fasting like no food.
Yes.
Father, we need
Yeah.
to put you away. No food. How many days of no food?
Well,
Fasting?
it depends on the person. And sometimes it's not really no
So a
food.
little water.
Yeah, you could have water in between. Some people do 1 meal a day. You
Okay.
have different forms of fasting.
Okay.
And people who are sick, people who are over 70, the church does not recommend that you fast.
Okay.
You understand? And then you can fast from certain things. And these days, the Pope and the preachers, we encourage people that there are more important things to fast from.
Yeah.
So we like to say, okay, I give up KFC, but we can't wait for
Yes,
Easter
yes,
to
yes.
reach for us to go back to and eat our KFC.
Yeah.
We give up drinking. We can't wait, to go back and drink, and this kind of thing. But, these days, more than ever, we are encouraging people the more pertinent things to fast from: gossip, hatred, a lack of forgiveness,
Wow.
right relationship, jealousy, envy. If we fast from these things makes us better human beings. And by extension, we have a better country. You understand?
Yeah, yeah.
So Lent is in essence calling us to mend our relationships with ourselves, to mend our relationships with God, and to mend our
So the fasting is
relationship.
almost like a chance to purge yourself with
It's not a
prayer.
chance. It's not a chance. It's an opportunity
Opportunity.
to purge yourselves through prayer,
Wow.
through fasting, through almsgiving.
That's
So,
strong.
for example, you may like KFC, and you probably have KFC twice a week. So you can say, okay, I will purge myself from KFC for Lent. The money that I save from not buying KFC, I will give it to a poor person.
Yes. I like that.
Yes. So, but you see, sometimes many people do not understand, and they're busy to criticize what we do and those kind of things.
Tanisha, we're going into commercial and we'll be right back. Father Albert had me froze for a second. I forgot we had to take a commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, I have Father Albert here with me. Father Albert, welcome back. So how does the food part come for Lent and Easter? Because they said, some people say no dairy products, fish, and all of that. Is this a religious stuff? How did it come about?
So, during Lent, we are called to make sacrifices. And when we were growing up, so you would hear people say, oh, no fat, no meat on a Friday, no dairy products and those kind of things. And so we believe that, meat at the time was the most expensive form of protein.
Yes.
Now it's different, So we were encouraging people to fast from meat and to eat fish, because fish was considered the poor man's meal, to identify with those who did not have and those who are less fortunate.
Okay.
That's the whole thing. So, but now fish is more expensive than anything else.
To tell you that.
Understand?
Saying, the poor man can only think about that one sardine.
Exactly. So again, this needs to be revisited. But in essence, the whole thing was to identify. So the church does not have to determine for you what can you do to help you identify with those who are less fortunate,
So the part
those who may not have.
So the part about the food, it wasn't something that was in the scripture. It was something the church came back in the days.
The church, well, as far as I know, I don't think it is in scripture, but the church always looks at occasions that can help us, to live better
Live
lives.
better lives.
So
Okay.
again, we need to look at the end to identify with those who are less fortunate, to identify with those who are poor, because in the olden days, the meat was the rich man's meal, eh?
Yes, definitely.
For people, if you did not have meat on a Sunday, you understand.
Yes, yes, yes.
So again, to identify with the less fortunate, you identify with the poor of the poorest of the poor.
And funny enough, that Sunday thing is still there because on a Sunday meal, when you pass by somebody home, they always have pots, say, you thinking something stewing.
Exactly.
It's a tradition that was very strong in the Caribbean, I know for sure, the Sunday meals. So, Father Albert, how did I have bunnies as deco as an even plan, I put it, but I would like to know how the egg, I wonder how a bunny can make an egg. How is it just something they commercialize for that whole Easter thing? I was always wondering, how did that reach in Easter? And it's supposed to be for the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Were there bunnies when Jesus resurrected from the tomb? I mean, like, how is it just something people put together and then to sell Easter to make money?
To be honest, I have really not explored that, and I think it is something to really sell Easter, because Easter is basically about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Because Lent leads us to the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Christ dying to save us. St. Paul says, if Christ had not been raised from the dead, our faith would have been in vain. And Christ came, and I like to tell people, God did not send his son to die on the cross. Oh, well, go and die on the cross. I don't think that's what it was. God sent his son to show humanity the extent of his love for us. And if you look out throughout the scriptures, what Jesus was about, what his ministry was about calling people back to God. Feeding the hungry, restoring sight to the blind, restoring hearing, restoring people who have died, bring them back to life, and this kind of thing, to show people how much God the Father loved humanity. But you see, no word. No matter what Jesus did, some people never believed, and some people never accepted the teaching. So, in obedience to God the Father, Christ mounted the wood of the cross. That cross was a symbol of scandal and shame, because the cross, in essence, was what they used to hang murderers and thieves and those kind of things. But Jesus did none of that. So he went through the most shameful death, changing the meaning of the cross to the tree of life.
Wow.
So because of the cross, Christ gave himself. And even on the cross, he was crucified between two thieves, and one said, but save yourself now. And the other one said, you have no respect for man or for God. And he says, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And that is the whole thing, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. New life, new beginning. And at Easter, we have this new beginning for us as Christians. Here's yet another opportunity for us to start afresh. How have I been living my life? So all through Lent, and I'm going back to your word, an opportunity to purge ourselves as to how do I live a better life, and I mean
to reflect,
to take stock, to start afresh, to mend relationships.
So that's why I remember sometimes they say all allowed music.
Exactly.
Selling alcohol.
Exactly.
So it's just to be on a calm for people to reflect. But I guess some people maybe either don't believe or they don't respect it. Is it the law of the land? Because if the police is involved.
Certain days. So like on a Good Friday, no shops should be open, and those kind of things. But people still open shops. Exactly.
They cannot survive one day without it for a couple of hours.
But how did we survive before? I think we have lost respect for the moral values. We have lost respect. People have lost respect for religion.
I think people only use religion when it's convenient to them.
You're very correct.
Something we broke, Bon Dieu, God help me. Somebody
Yes.
falls sick, they call in on God.
Yes.
Something they need a job, they call in on God.
Exactly.
So it's almost like it's like God turned to a God of convenience. So
That
when they need you
that is
him,
very
they
correct.
call on him,
That is
but they
very
would not
correct.
respect. It doesn't matter whichever religion, they would not respect anything to do with him unless they don't need him at the time. But at that time, it's already too late. It's almost like
Exactly. You see, because he's not a God that works by the snapping of our fingers.
I guess
We need to have a relationship with God. And any relationship requires time, requires, nurturing, requires anything. Our relationship with God is no different to the relationship of friendship, to the relationship of husbands and wives, to the relationship of persons. You understand what I'm saying? So it requires time. It requires time. And we need to nurture our relationship with God.
we'll be right back. That point hit, it sink. We'll be right back with Father Albert. Welcome back. I have Father Albert here with me. Father Albert, welcome back again. Father Albert, don't you think that Easter has been commercialized so much, not only in St. Lucia, but around the world? It's like now they use the holiday to go on the beach. And it's not like I don't think you have to force anybody to do what they don't want to, but because of what you said there previously, it sounds like a time to reflect, a time to, it's almost like I look at Easter now from what you say, and I got it. It's almost like Christmas where we're supposed to come together as a people and just be on a low key and connect with each other and connect with the Lord and stuff like that. But I find now it's more commercialized. It's about the bunnies and the eggs, and it's almost like the religious aspect of it has just thrown out of the window.
I would say that, and even for some of us Catholics, we really do not understand the whole aspect of Lent, the whole aspect of Easter, and those kind of things. So, for example, when we get to Palm Sunday, then our Lenten observances takes on a different tone. It takes on a more intensive tone because we move into what we call Holy Week. And Holy Week is slightly more intense. So the Wednesday of Holy Week, we have what you call Chrism Mass. And you must have heard, it's like, oh, well, this person is dying, call the priest.
Yes.
And this kind of thing. So Chrism Mass, the Wednesday of Holy Week, is the day when we bless all the oils we use for the next year during the church's year.
So you just put it in a cabinet or something?
Well, we come to church, we bless the oils, and you have various oils. So you have oils of catechumen, you have the chrism oil, and you have the oil of the sick. The bishop blesses this oil. One of them is consecrated, and these are the oils. So it's distributed to every parish.
Okay.
There on that day also, every priest renew the priestly commitment to serve to the best of our abilities for the next year. Okay. So every Wednesday of Holy Week, we come to do that. And so the following day would be the whole, what we call Holy Thursday, which is we celebrate the Mass of the washing of the feet and where the Holy Eucharist was instituted.
So you actually the washing whose feet? Your feet?
Not my feet. The priest washes the feet of people.
They physically washing the people's feet?
Yes.
Hey, that's a lot of feet to touch, Father.
Yes, it is.
You serious?
So, yes, so we usually have 12 people. And before, we used to do just only men. But now we mix it men, women,
or
and
just
children.
12, but you can't do the whole congregation.
No, you can do the whole congregation. So we get 12.
Okay, all
and
right.
it is what Jesus did, washing the disciples' feet,
Okay.
Before the institution.
So you have to like bless the water before.
No, we don't bless the water, but it's just washing their feet as a sign of our service to the congregation, to the people. Right? Now, the Mass that we celebrate on Holy Thursday, it does not end until Holy Saturday night.
So you're in church
In the essence,
until...
no, it's not. We're not in church until. But when we come on Holy Thursday night, there is an entrance hymn, but there's no recessional hymn to say the Mass is ended because we have not ended. So we live in quiet. When we come back on Good Friday afternoon, we come in silence and we live in silence. So there's no entrance, there's no recessional as per normal.
Okay.
When we come on Holy Saturday night, again, there is no entrance. So on Holy Saturday night, we begin outside with a big fire. We light the new candle and all of these kind of things. And the procession processes in, with a candle, and, the priest or the deacon sings, Light of Christ. Thanks be to God, Christ's resurrection. And then we have a recessional hymn. So it is one mass spans over 3 days. And people really a lot of people don't understand that. At that mass, we have 7 readings. So it gives the whole of salvation history. It begins from Genesis and it ends with the new readings from the New Testament, highlighting our salvation history, the crossing of the Red Sea and all of those kind of things.
So around that time, we have a whole week of worshiping.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because even at normal events in worldly things, you have events, some people go to an event, Monday, Sunday.
Exactly.
So I don't think it's too much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I always think sometimes when it comes to something religiously or something to do with your job, we as human beings, we complain. But if it's to party and
exactly.
they
Exactly.
Complain,
exactly.
Yeah, they don't even sleep properly.
Yes.
So I think with all what's happening now in St. Lucia, I think it's a good thing. And you saying that is like, okay, I was very ignorant of the fact. You did not understand. Sometimes you used to go to church on your own because my mom growing up,
right?
So you go on your own or you go with somebody. So you didn't really understand. You just follow or you repeat what you hear. But speaking to you now is like you get more knowledge and how it works. Something you are seeing all the time, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
So how do you pull down the curtains on Easter? The last part of the service would be what? How would the service end? Because you said they leave.
Well, on Holy Saturday night, it's a joyous celebration, and then we have a recessional hymn. So it ends like a normal mass.
Oh.
Yes, it ends like a normal mass. And usually what we try to do, and we're not always successful, is that we try to have the mass go in a way that when it's midnight, and some people they end before midnight because of security reasons now and all of those kind of things, where we have the sign of peace. You exchange the sign of peace at midnight. Christ's resurrection.
Sign of peace meaning to shake hands?
Yes, to shake hands, to hug, to embrace, to kiss.
What's the hymn for that?
You have different songs you can use.
Okay.
And these kind of things. I want to go back a little to Good Friday. And Good Friday, for us Catholics and other Christian denominations, some of them observe it as well as a day of fasting where you don't eat, really. But then some people cook and they eat later on in the evening.
Yes.
They cook makuyo, mackerel, and yam and those kind of things. So it's a simple meal on that day. And again, it's just to show that we are entering into, because that's when we celebrate the death of Jesus.
Okay.
Jesus really dying. Now, some people say, oh, how can he die on Friday and he resurrect on Sunday?
I was just about to ask you. My next question was going to be, some people will say he did not resurrect on that day and he did not die.
That is a whole discussion in itself.
Yes.
And I cannot hold the entire reasoning and how it is calculated in those days and all of those kind of things. But we can do another show. We can explore, because I believe, there's a lot, and I'm segueing a little, there's a lot of division when it comes to denominations in St. Lucia. Yeah. This one crying down the Catholic Church, this one doing this one to this one.
That's a lot, because as a young man, I think it was very disgusted for me that if I go to a Pentecostal church or a Baptist, they're talking, it's like I come there for you to give the Catholic Church me praise. That's not what I came here to do.
Exactly.
I don't think.
Exactly.
I think as whatever denomination you are, I think when you open your mouth, it's supposed to be a blessing. You don't have to bring down somebody else to convince me that God is coming to convince me to join your religion. So I think it's very disgusting that you go to a church, any church, and they would do that to bring down another religion. Yes. I don't think it's a good thing.
I think one of our issues in St. Lucia locally, and I can speak locally because that's where I am, is that we concentrate more on the negatives of each other instead of the positives of each other.
Because I believe you, Father, because you would do something, nobody not talking about it. It's a gossip you steal something in a supermarket, they have your name 20 in the mud.
Yes,
Sharmark keep
yes,
something in the
yes,
supermarket.
yes.
But you give 10 baskets to the poor. Nobody's
Nobody
talking
speaks
about
about
it. They would
it.
think that you're looking for attention, so you give
Exactly,
it. So you
exactly.
always get that. And
Yeah.
then sometimes you just have to do what you do and don't even let it get to you. Because I think as human beings, sometimes we need to think differently. But Father, before we wrap up, what would you like to say to St. Lucia, especially your persons looking in terms of Easter and just Easter in a nutshell? What would you like to say? What would you like to leave with us before you leave?
Okay. I love St. Lucia. I'm a St. Lucian to the bone, 758. Yes, I'm St. Lucian to the core. And one of the things I want to appeal to our people, is stop the division and the hatred. And I think, Lent is a beautiful time when we can look into our own selves. How am I? So many people say, oh, they love St. Lucia, they St. Lucian and those kind of things. But all they do is to damage the country.
Amen.
You understand? They cry you down, they cry me down, they do all kinds of things. Let us take time to purge ourselves of our dirty ways. And I use that word deliberately. To purge ourselves of our dirty ways and to see coming of Easter how we can make St. Lucia a better place.
Amen.
There is so much hatred in St. Lucia.
Amen.
There is so much division. There is so much gossiping. There is so much jealousy. There is such a lack of forgiveness in St. Lucia. I want to call on all St. Lucians. And remember, I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about St. Lucians.
Amen.
I want to call on all St. Lucians to turn away from our wicked ways and to let us make St. Lucia truly a place where all of us feel welcome and all of us feel appreciated.
Amen.
And leave out the negativity. That is what I want to leave with them.
That was strong words. Thank you so much, Father Albert. And don't be a stranger, but thank you so much. Thank you so much. Happy Easter to you. And that was a lot of information. And I liked it. It was not, I say, but Father Albert coming today, I don't want it to be religious. It was informative. It was different.
And that is what I try to do as much as possible. Informative. Because I think if you lack the knowledge, then you're not empowered to change your life, to live better lives and those kind of things. And one of my thrusts as a priest is to help people to live better lives. None of us are saints. All of us are sinners. But every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. So there's a potential for all of us to become saints.
St. Lucia, thank you for viewing. Happy Easter. Catch us on Sundays for a rebroadcast. Thank you. Happy Easter again. Bye now.